Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. With us right now is Orthodox Jewish blogger Jacob Kornbluth. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. I know that there's a lot going on. You were upset at the Republicans. Usually you're upset at the Democrats. This week you're upset at the Republicans. Why are you upset at them?
I am not at all upset at Republicans. I mean, my problem is not with the Republicans, not with the national Republicans, although I think that they went a little too right, and, we need to moderate for 2016. But my outrage was at the Republican Jewish Coalition. And the Republican Jewish Coalition is basically represents Republican Jews. Republican Jews make up maybe 19% of the entire American Jewry.
Okay.
Out of 19%, I would say 11% are Orthodox Jews. Now, you can argue that Orthodox Jews register as Democrats and don't vote Republican. However, when it comes to general elections, when it comes to statewide, federal, national elections, we do vote Republican. So the Orthodox Jews are most probably 50% of the Republican Jewish coalition base. And despite all that, there's no ultra-Orthodox or even as of now, a known Orthodox prominent leader on their board. My outrage was not at their conduct or misconduct. My outrage was that they convened a convention, a leadership convention in Vegas with, speakers like Eric Cantor, the Speaker of the House, with other prominent Republican leaders, and they did it on Shabbos. Now, if they would do it on Shabbos like Aguda does it or other organizations, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But, they had meetings with mics, with photographers, videotaping, and, some sensitivity towards, even if it would only be 20% of their base, Orthodox Jews are aligned with Republican values and with Jewish Republicans. We find common ground, and why shouldn't we be seen as part of that coalition?
So what did they tell you? Or did they respond to you?
Well, as I always do, I first send out a tweet, and it created a whole discussion. People were outraged, people were disappointed, and what the RJC has a official Twitter handle. They don't tweet on Shabbos because I guess they want to minimize the critic against them. But their response was arrogant. Like, look who is sticking up for you. Only lefties like the Jewish Forward or friends who vote Democrats. This is what you are trying to help the GOP with such friends who need enemies, they said. And, I mean, I don't mind. It's not like I expressed outrage because I wasn't invited or because they did something against what I believe in. It was the arrogant response, and this is only one component of the arrogance towards the Orthodox Jewish community. You can go back and look at all of the races that, over the past 2 years, if it's the Bob Turner race, if it's the David Starobin race, if it's any race in the Jewish community, they didn't pick up a finger. The Bob Turner race, they didn't want to help. Bob Turner's campaign reached out to them. They didn't want to help with the nickel, but they were the first to issue a statement taking a victory lap.
But hold on, but you can say that they didn't want to give a nickel because they didn't have faith that Bob Turner was going to win. They didn't want to spend money. New York is written off by the Republicans.
There's no reason.
But you can't. But if you're trying to say they're insensitive to segments of the Jewish community, in fairness, the Republicans didn't think Bob Turner was going to win. They didn't think David Starobin was going to win.
I understand, but on the other hand, if you are an organization that you spend $6.5 million in a national election, where did they put the money in? Philadelphia. Pennsylvania was going to go for Romney.
But you answered your question, because they spent money in places where they felt they had a chance of winning. They have given up and I think it's wrong. I'm upset that both the Democrats and the Republicans, for different reasons and different perspectives, the Democrats don't bother campaigning on a national level for president in New York because they figured New York is so much in the column. The Republicans give up on New York, not just for presidential race, but other races. And the truth is, the Republican Party in New York is pretty much in shambles.
Here's my view, okay? The Orthodox Jews align themselves with the Republican parties in terms of sharing common values, in terms of agreeing mostly on fiscal issues. I'm not talking about the benefits and local council races or state senate races. I'm talking about Orthodox Jews are a growing voting bloc for the Republican Party. In Borough Park, 80 or 90% voted for Romney. So, having said that, I know you don't want to put in some money because you know you don't have a chance. I understand that. But how about if you do some outreach, if you do some events within the Orthodox community? You urge people to go register. You urge people to go out to vote. You urge candidates to put themselves on the ballot. You urge people to come out on election day or volunteer. Why wouldn't it happen? If it can happen with the Democrats, if it could happen in special elections, why shouldn't it happen on a yearly basis when we are the most growing and the most strongest voting bloc?
But hold on, but Jacob, but you're also missing one part of the picture. Is for a while, didn't they hire a Hasidic Haredi blogger by the name of Yossi Gestekner to represent them in New York? Didn't they try that for a while?
That was the New York GOP. And the New York GOP, with all due respect, are a statewide county committee. They have not done significantly to urge candidates viable candidates of running or come in the community and tell them, hey, we have a warm home for you. Come in, join our events or so. So you cannot argue that the New York GOP would be an option for Orthodox Jews to attend their events, or for Orthodox Jews just to view their candidates as one of them. However, when we are talking about the Republican Jewish Coalition, we're talking about a minority. The Republican Jews are a minority among American Jewry. And when you're talking about coalition, you're speaking about Orthodox, modern Orthodox, maybe some secular that are fiscal conservatives or rich, so they are Republicans. But you're also talking about a growing faction within the Republican Party, that Orthodox Jews, that would vote for Republicans. If they would find one of their own running for office, why wouldn't they go out like they went out this November in Borough Park?
But Jacob, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But they're two separate things. There's a National Republican Party. I have in New York one. In New York, they have not been able to attract the candidates and to do their homework. And you're right. Just like they won the Senate seat with David Storben, and just like they had other victories in New York, including Bob Turner, they could do it again. But they have
that was with the help of local
thing, but that's local, and you know what? They can do a lot more in New York. The National Party does not pay attention to New York.
That's no question about it.
And the local GOP is not really in a great position. It's not in there's no great leadership in the sense where you have a whole vibrant, dynamic organization. And I think with the recent scandal where they lost a couple, right, of some of the top people with the corruption scandal that was with Malcolm Smith and others just a couple of weeks ago, they lost even more clout and more respectability. That's the problem that they have. But you're right.
I don't disagree with you, Zev. However, there is place, within the Republican Party to reconsider themselves, to come down to the community, to view us as not as a taken for granted voting bloc, but as a constituent, as a faction within the Republican Party, one that will strengthen, first of all, our common values, our relationship with various communities, and also urge people who are seeking to enter the political arena, urge people who are seeking public life, urge people who would be there if they would get some help from the national or local or statewide party, and it would be a different situation. We would be looking at some Orthodox representatives, not only one Orthodox representative in the Assembly, one in the State Senate, and one in Council, but you would be looking on every local race, in every local legislator. You would be looking at a few Orthodox representatives for the Jewish community.
Speaking as Jacob Kornbluh, he is a well-known Orthodox blogger taking on usually, I think, challenging Democrats, now challenging the national Republicans for abandoning the Jews in New York, where they have a good, strong base. In fact, we'll talk about when we come back. The New York Times and other papers have recognized that one of the fastest-growing populations in New York is the Haredi community, and they represent a formidable voting bloc, and I think they're being courted in the Democratic race for mayor. We'll see how they're doing in the Republicans as well. We're going to take your phone calls when we come back as well. If you like to chime in, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Are you a Democrat, Republican? Do you occasionally vote Republicans? Are you solid Democrat? Do you like what's going on? Do you like the current crop of candidates, both Democratic and Republican? 212-769-1925. We'd love to hear from you. 212-769-1925. You want to email us, zev@talklinecommunications.com. That's zev@talklinecommunications.com. You want to text us, is 21800. Just put in Zev and put down your question, and you can text us from your cell phone as well. 212-769-1925. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, Independent. Where do you stand? We'd love to hear from you. Speak out. Speak up. When we come back, we'll take your phone calls. 212-769-1925. And are you upset at the Republicans for being insensitive, or are you comfortable with that? Or you don't care because Republicans don't count as much in New York as they do elsewhere in the country? 212-769-1925. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Our guest is Jacob Kornbluh. He is a blogger, and we're taking your phone calls at 212-769-1925. If you want to email us, zev@talklinecommunications.com. Dina Manhattan, you have a question for our guest.
Well, I should have a comment. I really respectfully disagree with him. You know, there's no moral equivalency between the Republican Party and Torah values. I've been studying the Torah with prominent rabbis here in the city and abroad for 20 years. And I cannot find one value that Republicans stand for that match our Torah values. However, Democrats, the Democratic Party values, I'm not talking about the candidates and the people that are in the party today, are all about caring for people. This is what our Torah says, as in heaven, so on earth. God is merciful. He takes care of us. We're supposed to take care of our fellow human beings. The Republican Party is about the top 1%. And I just find this outrageous that all these so-called Orthodox Jews are aligning themselves with the Republican Party who don't care about basic core Jewish values.
Jacob.
First of all, politics is not about Torah values. Torah values is about what we keep at our home, how we educate our children, how we conduct ourselves as human beings. However, when you look at the parties, in affiliations with parties, the Democratic Party, yes, cares for the poor, but they only care for the poor to preserve them as being poor, so they are dependent on them for their vote. Just look at the situation in the country right now. We re-elected a Democratic president. We have a Democratic Senate. Have we gotten anywhere closer to recovery? No. Speak about the Republican Party. The Republican Party cares about the 1%. No, they don't care. They care about job creators. The top 1%, unfortunately, are people that manufacture, that create jobs, and they are the ones that contribute to the country. They are the taxpayers. 50% of America doesn't pay any tax. So you cannot say that the Republican Party is less aligned with Jewish values when the Republican Party overall is about family values, is about keeping ourselves fiscal responsible rather than just reckoning ourselves, reckoning the economy. And you look at the Democratic Party today,
I don't know what
gay marriage
you're listening to.
now the number one issue in the
Hold on, I'm going to let you go.
There has been in the Republican Party.
One at a time. Jacob, I'm going to let our caller go ahead. So you want to challenge what Jacob said. What are you challenging?
I mean, there's no way that he can say with a straight face that the Republican Party cares about the average person. The Republican Party, since going back with Reagan, has been allocating money to companies and subsidizing these big corporations to outsource American jobs, to make the multinational companies control our entire country. They don't care about the average person. How can you actually say that with all honesty? And by the way, Torah values teaches us how to behave in the public arena, in our daily lives. I mean, to separate that's not what Hashem wants us to do. He wants us to take these values and do something with it. I mean, to say that it's separate, it's not separate. I don't know where where you're hearing this, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, I'm just very upsetting to me. I'm going to hang up because I don't understand how you can honestly say what you're saying. Goodbye.
Jacob.
Okay. Well, I would respond to Dina, first of all, she doesn't know where I hear my principles. However, I do know where she takes her talking points from. She has been following most probably all the rallies of President Obama or watching MSNBC every night. So talk about Torah values. But to the point, the Republican Party, look at New York City. We have 20 years a Republican mayor. We had for 3 terms, for 12 years, we had the Governor Pataki. I mean, didn't they care about the average New Yorker? Didn't they provide security and benefits and all the needs that we needed? Look, even at the Republican Party right now in the New York Senate, talk about the transportation bill, talk about CAP, talk about TAP, talk about helping yeshivas, talk about yeshiva vouchers. It's the Republican Party that cares for those who follow the guidelines by the Torah, and that's Adam La'amal Yilov.
Number, and let's go to Sam in Brooklyn. You have a question or a comment for our guest. Go ahead, Sam in Brooklyn. Yes, Sam. We're patching you in, Sam, and you have a question for our guest. Okay, and we'll try to squeeze a couple email questions as well.
Jacob did mention that I think for the first time in history we're going to have last year, the Democrat Party did not include support of Israel at their national convention. Still, there was a whole controversy about it. They had to ask them. So I just want to point out that the Republican Party are more aligned with Orthodox Jews and supporters of Israel because of the issue of Israel. So I just want to add that.
Yeah, but I think what the caller was making the point when it comes to social issues, at least the perception out there, and remember, why do liberal Jews go to the Democratic Party? Because their course of action is more social action, helping the needy, helping the poor, and the perception is the Democrats do a better job of that than the Republicans do. That's why you have more Democrats that are Jewish than, let's say, Republicans, because they view the Democrats as more in line with Jewish values and Jewish tradition. The Republicans is just for the elite. This is the perception.
I know that is a perception out there. I get that. However, I think what Jacob made a point before that I think is correct, that you look on different Republican politicians elected in the past, I don't know how many years, they didn't take away programs from, benefits for the needy any community.
No, but remember, everything in life is a perception, and the perception is...
I think that is part of what I think he's trying to make a point that, organizations like the Republican Jewish Coalition and, organizations like that, they have to do a better outreach within the Orthodox Jewish community as well, all over that. Republicans are here for, they have the values, they call it the Torah values, or, values for the poor, for the needy. However, they're better equipped, to deal with these issues because they're policy-wise, they have shown to be better for the economy, better for, to more prosperity in the United States. It's just my view.
Jacob.
I mean, talk about social issues. Social issues in the Democratic Party is not about caring for the needy. Social issues in the Democratic Party is about same-gender marriage. It's about abortion. It's about attacking Republicans. It's about attacking free enterprise. So when you speak about helping the needy, you first need some money in your wallet. I mean, the best example is Israel. Israel withstood the entire global recession. However, they just followed an election in which the public first came to know that there's a deficit of 40 billion shekel. And the only way they're dealing right now with that, and Israel is viewed as a socialist country, the only way they're dealing with it is with budget cuts. And they're cutting from the needed, from the poor, from the seniors. So if you have money, yes, you do some charity. But first you need to be fiscal responsible in order to create jobs, in order to remain, steadfast against terrorism, steadfast to avoid a growing debt and a growing deficit. And if there's jobs, if there's a growing economy, if you recover from the recession, Republicans never showed. I mean, Bush, look at George W. Bush. He gave the tax credit. He gave child care tax credit. He was the one, the moderate on Social Security. So Republicans are not necessarily the 1%ers and looking to deport all of those who don't earn $250,000.
Anyway, caller, thank you for your call. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
In the moment that we have left, Jacob, how do you think the mayoral race is shaping up?
I mean, Anthony Weiner is going to jump in. There's no question about it. He's running, and he's going to create chaos in the Democratic primary. The question is, does he emerge as the number 2 in a runoff? Because there's no question Christine Quinn has failed to maintain that lead to avoid a runoff. And in a runoff, if Bill de Blasio, if Bill Thompson, if John Liu emerges as the number 2, she is not the Democratic nominee. However, if Weiner manages to split the vote, everybody gets 15%, and he gets only 1% more, and he emerges as the number 2, the candidates will have a problem because Weiner in the general election would lose to either Joe Loder or John Katsimatidis. However, Christine Quinn would beat them. So they will have a dilemma of whom to support. Is it Christine Quinn that they hate, or it's Anthony Weiner that would lose for them another mayoral election? So, the Democratic Party right now is in turmoil about Anthony Weiner's prospects. There's nobody really exciting other than Anthony Weiner. Nobody with the energy, even with the credibility that he has. Just look away from his Twitter fiasco. Look away from his personality.
Jay, we're unfortunately out of time. I want to read a quick email because I promised to get at least one email in. The Orthodox Jewish community, Yaakov Rice, leans as a block vote for the Republican Party on a national level and on a state level, not on a local level. So why shouldn't RJC invest in our communities? It's a win-win situation. It can only help. I agree with you. Jacob Kornbluth, thank you for being with us. People want to follow you online. They can blog with you. How can they do so?
They can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Kornbluth. They could check out my blog, jacobkornbluth.com, or my blog on the mayoral race, which is New York Mayor, nymayor.blogspot.com. It's always a pleasure to be on your program there.
Thank you for joining us. And